Snooky, this is Lee. Can you hear me?
Oh, where's your sound? All right.
It's way down here. Somewhere. Right there.
Yep.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Good to see you again.
You too. I had to get my granddaughter to come over and show me how to do it.
Right. Oh, we got somebody else to admit. Let's see who it is. Alan. Alan, he's still connecting. Oh, we don't need. Good to go, Alan.
Great. Now, by the way, mine says record at the bottom. If I wanted to record this on my own, would I push that button?
Yes,
I've never tried.
there are buttons at the bottom and there are buttons right next to where it says recording. And I believe it's maybe under more.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
well, I didn't want to screw anything up, so I've never bothered to touch the button. So, all right, I'll call the meeting of the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee to order for September 21st. I declare we have a quorum present and
Okay, hang on. I've just admitted Ed Gillum and Ken Bogrand.
great.
And you started at 4 o'clock.
Great. Greetings, Ed. Greetings, Ken.
Greetings, everyone.
Hello.
Okay. Public comment, seeing none. I don't see any public there, so let me get on with the agenda. Number 2, approval of minutes from August 18th, our last official meeting. Any comments, errors, omissions, anything you notice on those minutes? Phil?
Just a clarification. This is on item number 7, Lee. Old, new, and other business. The second paragraph, you say Phil Smith is working to identify all ways to the beach and improve the town's list of private versus public ways. I would like to do that this winter with the help of the other committee members. I mean, I really don't want this all on my shoulders. I mean, people ask me what I do here in the winter. I mean, that would be a job and a half. So if we could sort of parcel this out among the members, it would be, it would sort of spread the workload, and B, we all might learn something in the process.
Good point. And I agree with you. Number 6 on our agenda today deals with public access. And that's one of the things that I wanted to raise, how we track those public access points down. So good. All right. Any other comments or corrections on the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the 18th of August.
17.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Good.
Okay, Alan, who were they?
Phil moved and Ed seconded.
Got
And
it.
that was the 17th, Alan, not the 18th of August.
So I have done something to my machine,
I think
and
the actual meeting, Phil, was on the 18th.
Oh,
So
because I was just looking at the approval of minutes from Tuesday, August 17th, maybe, in the agenda.
I know on the agenda, the previous agenda, I think I had the wrong date or something.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I take that back.
Yeah, no,
okay, Phil, Phil, if you want any changes, if they're editorial, just send them to me and I'll fix the minutes before they go to the town clerk. If you think there's of substance, we may have to approve an amendment.
I don't think it's necessary to change what you have, Lee, just that we kind of all understand what the plan is. I don't think we need to get into.
Okay, I will include it in today's minutes that you commented that this is not a sole person function, but should be done cooperatively.
Right. That's fair.
Okay,
Rick, did you have a
Alan,
comment?
can I interject for one thing?
Sure.
I've got Bill Greeter on the phone and he's asking Lee if Lee sees him.
Lee does not see him. Just a minute.
He does not see you. Did you hear that? You can talk to him on the phone.
Hang
if you
on.
want.
Hang on.
It's a long way out to Madigan.
Yeah, no, the messages take a while. We should have Bill
Oh,
Greeter.
looking good. You're present by what looks like a advertising sign.
There's Bill.
There
Good.
he is.
Bill, are you
you go.
there?
Yeah. Bill.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the minutes from August 18 and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote and we'll do it by roll call. Lee,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Phil,
Here.
Aye.
and Bill.
Aye.
Okay, so
I'm presuming that Rob will say, since I wasn't there, I'm not sure what the right word is, recuse maybe, but
there's, yeah, right,
Abstain, I'll abstain.
abstain, yeah.
great. Okay, and so that sets us on our way here. I want to welcome our new member, Rob Ranney. And I think Rob is probably familiar to everybody over the years, given that his family has been here for many years. Now, you grew up here, didn't you, Rob?
I did. My family moved here when I was 10, so I spent a large part of my youth traveling the island.
Right.
So Rob, in 1978, when we were shopping for a house, we were guided by Dick Denby.
Mhm.
And I think your father was part of that agency.
He was. We
And my
just-
mother was too.
Right.
There you go. Perfect.
And Denby Real Estate was right around the
Yeah.
corner on Federal
Are you
Street
having trouble signing in?
from Snow Cycle Shop.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, 4 Federal Street.
They're introducing Rob, so nothing's happening. Let me see if I can resend you the invitation. Okay, right. All right, bye-bye. Alan,
Yeah,
if we could have just a short pause. Nat Lowell wants to sign in.
oh, great. Yeah, no, I definitely,
Well, there was a difference between the links. The reminder that Alan sent out had a different meeting number on it.
really?
Yeah.
And the way that the number was spread out made it impossible to use it. So I had to go back to Lee's earlier invitation to be able to connect.
I thought I just hit the number on my thing.
Anyway,
Okay, anyway, I'm sorry about that. Numbers and Zoom meetings are not my strong suit, so. Okay, how are we doing, Lee, for getting Nat involved?
Well, as it turns out, he should have the address. There's a nice message from Nancy Holmes, which I will read after our meeting. and we should all be back. And let's see if Nat has signed in yet. I don't see him.
Did anyone else have difficulty signing in from either the agenda or from the number, the 944-510 number?
Yeah, my granddaughter had trouble getting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
I sent Nat the invitation, but I don't see him. All right, well, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Back to Rob.
So, so anyway, Rob, you're welcome to Roads and Right-of-Way Committee. We have an interesting history of projects and so on. You saw on the agenda, we have a list of different projects that we are in, some way involved in. But basically what I do as chairman is I try to focus by having a project, to define a project with goals and all that sort of thing. And it makes it easier to, to focus on it. So good. Anything you want to say to the committee before we get underway here?
No, other than it's an honor to serve with this august body, and I'm very privileged to be here.
Great. Well, thank you, and you're very welcome. So, okay, let me get on with the next item, an update road projects, Lovers Lane, Wyatt Drive, and Okawa and Monahasset. Those are the major road projects that we've been encouraging for a number of years. The Lovers Lane project, of course, was approved at town meeting this past spring, along with the funding for it. Now, unfortunately, with the I was going to say the chaos, but with the disruption, let's put it that way, at the DPW, I have been in touch with Steve Anderlew, who's the sort of temporary, or the one who's taken the reins from Rob. And so there's nothing really to report in terms of progress, other than the fact that the select board is trying to fill in what's happening at the DPW by setting priorities. They're looking at their own priorities. They're looking at the projects that they have on board, and they are they are working away at trying to prioritize the different projects. So I've got nothing really as far as an update on those particular ones. I did speak with Mark Willett at the water department, and he's involved because they were planning to do sewer lines over some of the different road projects that were going to be happening. And he and David Gray from the sewer department have agreed to assist where possible as far as the road layouts and that sort of thing. So I'm sure that at the top of the list will be those projects that were recently approved at town meeting. That includes Lovers Lane and Hinsdale Road. Hinsdale is the one that goes between Nobody Farm Road and Fairgrounds Road. And there's a proposal, and payment was, or the bond was approved for that, for those two. So I'll continue to follow up on those projects and see where the other projects might become, well, see where they fall in line with the priorities. Ken, do you have any information on the priorities as far as the roads projects or the sidewalks projects? Oh, Ken, you're,
With respect to Lover's Lane, I'm continuing to work with the outside consultants in terms of moving forward to get all of the easements necessary in order to be able to do the drainage, which is a prerequisite to the grading of the road itself. We've also met with the state representative from the state forest in terms of getting their approval as to the walking path through the state forest properties that run adjacent to Lover's Lane. So that is moving forward. But with respect to the timing of the various different projects as to the roads, that's still in the development stage with Libby and the people looking at the situation as to how we move forward with the limited number of staff that we have.
great. Lee?
Yeah, Alan, I want to ask you and Ken, and I wasn't sure whether topic 4 or topic 5, but since you threw the word sidewalks in there, I'm concerned about Sparks Avenue, which I think was approved as much as a year ago. And is anything going to happen with the Sparks Avenue? It's bigger than a sidewalk, multi-use path on the cemetery side, school and cemetery side.
Well, there were plans for that. I just don't know where they are. I know that they had started some work with the survey and they surveyed the other side of the street, the opposite side of the street, but I do not know the answer to what the timing is as to addressing that.
Great.
There's Alan, there's one other thing. In the current application before the Community Preservation Committee, the Nantucket Historical Commission has made an application for a grant with respect to a study to sort of develop a plan to provide an approach to addressing or manner of addressing the restoration of the sidewalks and the street. And I'm wondering if it would be possible for you or someone to review that and make a recommendation to me as to your support or concerns with respect to the application. We are going to be having hearings on that starting on September 29th. So if you can have someone take a look at that and get back to me with your comments on that application, you can get a copy of the application by calling Glenna at the CPC, and she can forward that to you. And I'd very much appreciate the view from the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee as to the appropriateness and the usefulness of this approach to this committee and also to the town.
Okay, in fact, let's take that subject up now because I was going to bring that up under the next item. As I was contacted by Mickey Rowland, who's on that committee. This is the Nantucket Historical Commission. And they have put in an application for a survey of the sidewalks on Upper Main Street. This is not the downtown sidewalk, but
Yeah.
Upper Main Street. But they, Mickey Rowland said that they are planning to look also at the south side of Main Street from Bookworks down to the end of the sidewalk there. Now, what they are proposing or what they are asking for is a survey such as the Cemetery Commission is doing for the various cemeteries. We are having all the monuments in the cemeteries surveyed, and that basically means the condition of them. So this is not to do any work on the or do any repairs or anything like that on the sidewalks or Upper Main Street. It's to have the Historical Commission go up and down the street, and I would assume that they are going to take a look at the historic stuff that's there, the curbs and so on. I was asked to submit a recommendation by Mickey, and I sent a brief letter of support, let's put it that way. I made clear that it was a personal, my personal opinion and not a reflection of the committee. So again, the proposal is to hire a firm to assess the condition of the sidewalks, and it's more than just the condition.
Yeah, which is to recommend a strategy with respect to how to deal with it, as I read the application. And so my question is, from this committee's point of view, is the spending of $85,000 of CPC money an appropriate expenditure in terms of the end result of what you get out of this? What I want to make sure is that in my discussion with Hillary as she was preparing this was only for the sidewalks, not for the street, because there's in my point of view, there is a potential conflict of interest then when we get involved in terms of looking at what to do with the street in front of her house. So that's why I just wanted to have this committee indicate that from their point of view, there is potential value to the town with respect to this kind of report and this kind of strategy. And is this a useful thing from the committee's point of view? So that helps the CPC in understanding that the money would be appropriately worthwhile to be spent so that the community benefits from it.
Right.
Ken, this is Lee. I was with the group when Rob McNeil had an open session there on Upper Main Street. And one of the issues is going to be very personal. Each homeowner values and likes the array of materials in front of his or her house, some of which are old brick, some of which are, I think there's one or two may be asphalt. The big one is the big granite pavers, which are not consistent with brick, but actually have been there for quite a while. So no matter what the consultant says, in the end, nobody will agree.
No, the point is that Lee, you're making my very point. The very point is if this is not a useful exercise in terms of simply a nice way to be able to sort of try to create something, then I don't want to waste town money in terms of approving the expenditure of it. If from the point of view of this committee, the likelihood of getting something meaningful that is going to benefit addressing the issue relative to sidewalks, which is a concern of this committee, is going to be addressed.
Right.
One other factor for Ken, and I'm just going to leave this out of the minutes, but one of the other factors was that Rob McNeil said, look, if I can install curbing in such a way that it buttresses the relayed cobblestone, we may reduce the opportunity for rutting, that is to say, the sinking of the cobblestones under the weight of trucks. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, but you can't do that with the historic curbing.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got a couple of concerns, but Ed first.
I think there is value in documenting this. I can't see that expense that they're putting forward is what it costs to document it. But quite frankly, I think the end result is a quagmire that, quite frankly, I don't know will be that useful. And I think I think it would not be the best spent money for the CPC, quite frankly. But that's my personal opinion. I think that there needs to be some documentation of places where it's become a safety issue, perhaps. And there are areas that there is safety issues. There's worse ones in the middle of town, quite frankly. But but that's an awful lot of money to really throw down a rat on. But there we go.
Ed, I'm going to add a word to your concern. Document safety issues. Would you include encroachments?
Given the nature of our committee, I guess I would include encroachments.
Right. Okay, Bill and then Phil. Bill?
I had to find the mute button. To me, this is a can that's been kicked down the road that started, as you mentioned, with the sidewalks at the Three Bricks, that area. It's also a splash over from the sidewalk redo that was done at the club car, that was done 2 or 3 times because Rob had his way of doing things, and it didn't often gel with some of the other departments. And that area was done twice. So talk about wasting money. The sidewalk in front of the club car was done at least twice, if not 3 times. Then they ran into the same issue from Candle Street down Washington to Coffin Street down to the Harbor Masters building. So we've got an issue where a committee, the Historic Commission, and the DPW didn't agree on a process, and they didn't agree on a product. And the Select Board has chosen not to weigh in, or at least bring the groups in and hammer out some sort of a thing. They certainly meet in executive session enough to be able to do something like this. But so, you know, it may very well be this is just another way that the Historic Commission is trying to get the attention of the DPW and the town. And that intersection, Cox and Pleasant, when Rob was here, he made 2 or 3 presentations. And quite frankly, part of it was a half-assed presentation because he said he wasn't getting support from different departments or whatever. And so he kept reiterating, this isn't my design. This isn't my design. I don't know if you remember that statement. And so, anyway, you know, this can's been kicked down the road, and I'm uncomfortable for an advisory committee, the roads and right-of-ways, to be the linchpin of whether the CPC funding is adequate or right. First off, I think it needs to come to the committee to look at, and not a designated member of the committee.
Right.
And so, you know, if that can be done and we can get back by that date, fine. I don't think we aren't meeting again before the hearings are starting or whatever. So we're Johnny come lately to the party, and I, for one, don't want us to be the cause of a vote when we haven't vetted this thing.
Oh, there's Nat. Greetings, Nat. We're talking about Main Street. Phil, and then Rick. Phil.
Yeah, this is sort of in line with what I think other people are saying. But to me, to spend $85,000 to do a study without having some sense of, is there seriousness to actually fund the work? In other words, is this just something a bridge that doesn't go anywhere because there's no interest in fixing what will be found to be safety hazards? And, you know, just to, you know, otherwise it's just spending $85,000 and it's not going to go anywhere.
Right. I agree. Rick? All right.
You're muted.
Who's trying to speak?
Yeah.
And then it muted again. That's strange. Somehow, Lee, I'm going back to mute. Now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see you as well.
Well, that's a good sign. But without reading the request
Right.
and sort of hearing a little bit of what might be considered points of view about it, without that kind of background, I'm a little reluctant that we should be weighing in on another committee's responsibility without that knowledge or some input from those who might have a differing opinion. And some of us may have read it and some of us may not. And I just don't know that we should be doing that without that kind of an opportunity.
Right. Lee?
Alan and Ken, I hear the group, and I'm going to suggest that when you get a copy of the application, send it to us, particularly if it's not too terribly long. And then we respond to you. We may not take a vote, but we can, I think under the open meeting law, we can certainly say something like, I've read it and it doesn't change my opinion.
Well, the applications are on file with the Community Preservation Committee because they had to be submitted by September 10th. And I will ask Glenna, because it's about 30 or 40 pages of the full application. I will ask her to forward that on to you, Lee.
Okay, let me weigh in on the discussion so far. I have some,
Chairman.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, just so you know, I haven't been on, couldn't get this to work. I had to move in my house somewhere else and it worked. I don't know what's the story. What are we talking about right now? Sorry.
We're
I'm
talking,
looking at the agenda and I can't figure it out.
well, we're talking about sidewalks and specifically the Historical Preservation Commission has put in an application to for CPA funds to do a survey of Upper Main Street. Now, it's no work to be done, but just to survey up and down Main Street to see what the conditions are and so on. I have several reservations, personal reservations about this. First of all, you remember that our committee did a sidewalk survey of all the downtown sidewalks. We did it house number by house number. We identified the type of sidewalk that it had, the condition of the sidewalk, et cetera. We had a 5-point scale and all that sort of thing. It was detailed, and we had on most of the sidewalks at least 2 different people up and down, and we correlated all those scores. So again, we weren't looking from an historical perspective. Now, my concern is that the Historic Commission is looking, it's the same reason they could not do in front of the, not the Wharf Rats, the Pacific Club on the corner, because the Historic Commission slammed the brakes on that project. Remember all those wonderful downtown sidewalks that were done first on Straight Wharf and then on Easy Street, now Broad Street, and then partly on South Water Street. Those projects all came under criticism from the Historic Commission because they didn't use the right kind of curbing or, well, anyway, there were a number of complaints. So my concern is that the purpose of an historical, doing a historical survey is that they want to be sure that, well, we have this kind of curbing here, we have this kind of, whatever. So I would, well, let me get a sense of the committee here as to whether or not we would, well, we can't really vote on endorsing this because we haven't read the plan. None of us have read the plan, including me. So, Ed?
If I'm not mistaken, more our purview is the fact that is there a sidewalk existing? Is there a way from A to B? And perhaps if is there a safe way from A to B, rather than the material underneath the foot? So I guess just because we have sidewalk in our moniker, so to speak, I'm not sure really this is anything that really needs to be endorsed by us, really one way or the other, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. When I spoke with Mickey Rowland about it, he said one of his concerns was to address the crosswalks. And as we know, the crosswalks, particularly on that part of Main Street.
They're not crosswalks.
They're not
They
crosswalks.
just,
Yeah, right.
they
right.
just threw down some granite slabs.
Right, exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, and I would hate to have the survey that they're proposing to spend $80,000 for come to specifying what kind of curbing, what kind of, how all these things should be done. I think a much more useful a purpose for that 80-some thousand dollars would be to actually complete some of the sidewalk work that's already been planned for Center Street, Federal Street, Main Street, you name it. Every one of the streets in downtown is in need of rebuilding. And so far, the work that has been done, I think the work again, this is a personal opinion, I think the work on Straight Wharf is amazing. They solved a whole number of problems on Straight Wharf, which is the main, when all those people are walking off the High Line, they're going right up Main Street. They're going up that side of the street. And there were some very serious faults with that sidewalk initially. So my concern, particularly given the fact that the Historic Commission then went on to complain about the work that was done crossing over to Ellen's Diner or whatever it is now, and the Pacific Club. So
Alan, is this request just for the sidewalks? Because remember, during this debate with Upper Main was by Pleasant Street and that drainage issue, that low spot there, it sort of slopes down, and I'm pretty familiar with all the background of this. Is this request for just that? Because we got those like odd granite, I don't even know if it's granite, they're sort of like slate slabs, and the roots of the trees really push it up. Like those sidewalks up at the head of Main before Gardner Street are very, there isn't like a simple way to say, okay, we're going to fix these. We're going to reconstruct them with the same material, because the roots are pushing them up. You can't kill the trees to fix the sidewalk. So there's more going on here than just how something gets done, etc. All that curbing is going to be left alone. That mistake that was made at Zero Main is never going to happen again. That old curbing is not going to get replaced with new curbing. I can tell you that. That'll never happen again in our lifetime. I can absolutely guarantee it. That was a mistake. However, that granite stuff is complicated. I don't think there's a simple answer to that.
Okay.
I was, I think I was on that original sidewalk committee, and I don't think we ever talked about it then, but that is complicated to figure that out.
Exactly. Ken Bogren wants to comment.
Yeah, can I interject? Just listening to the conversations and going on, I think that what I'm hearing is that most of the committee feels that this is not something that it's appropriate for them under these circumstances to comment on, and so therefore I think I was asking whether or not it's something you felt necessary to be able to do. What I'm hearing is that you don't feel it's necessary to do that, that it goes outside necessarily the specific scope of your area, and you'll be happy to take a look at if a survey is done, to take a look at the results of the survey and see how it fits in. But it's not something that you feel that you want to provide input to in terms of whether or not CPC should go forward with respect to forwarding. That's what I've heard. So I'd just be happy to see whether or not my understanding of the conversation is what you all agree to.
I think you've got the consensus here. Anyone
Yeah.
object? Bill?
I'd like to jump on what Ed interjected as spot on. I don't think it's our responsibility or purview to talk about what the sidewalk is, how it's designed, how it's made, the materials used, any of that stuff. I think Ed hit it right on the old noggin there. Getting from A to B safely certainly falls within roads and right-of-ways, I believe. And then once that determination, that advice is given, since we're only advisory, the construction of, that's a DPW issue, historic issue, that's somebody else's issue. So I don't think we should weigh in on that at all. I think it's totally out of our wheelhouse.
Ken, it's just a quick question. Suppose that the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee wanted to put in a CPA application for, say, to fix, pick any street downtown, let's say Center Street. Would that be appropriate coming from our commission?
The issue is that you cannot ask for funding from the CPC for anything that is a responsibility of the town to do. So if it's the town's responsibility to do something, you can't come to the CPC for funding. But if you're looking for in this instance for a plan or a proposal in terms of how to do something to help the town achieve what it needs to be done, that's something that can be within the scope of what the CPC is allowed to do.
Interesting. All right. Yes, Rick.
Yeah, I just, for a quick response to Ken's comment, I thought he had an excellent summary and perspective of trying to draw a lot of our different conversations together. So I think if you go back and get it on the recorded statement, Ken, I think you did very well. So I thank you for pulling that off. So
sometimes you get lucky, Rick.
Good.
Yeah, well, it's more than luck.
Exactly. Okay, anything else on the Historical Commission's application to the CPA? Okay, has this discussion been helpful, Ken?
It has been really, really very helpful because it just allows me to deal with any concern that somebody says, well, roads and right-of-way should be looking to, and the answer I have the answer to that in terms of the reasons why this is not something that is as structured in roads and right-of-ways wheelhouse.
Great, good. Okay. Let's see, sidewalks projects. You recall I sent a memo to the select board about the missing sidewalks. There are 4 missing sidewalks, the one on Cliff Road, Pleasant Street, Prospect Street, and one other one somewhere. I haven't had a response from the select board as to what they did with it. So I have nothing to report on that. We did make a recommendation to the select board that those 4 areas did need attention as far as, Quaker Lane was the other. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't. Anyway, so I have no update on that, but I will continue to question Erica. Erica is usually my source there. Phil?
when we gave them the four recommendations, did we put a like 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of priority? Because I have a point of view on that.
I don't believe that particular one, we did not identify a priority in terms of the four roads. We simply pointed out to the select board that these were 4 places where pedestrians had to get off the side of the road and into the roadway to get to the next sidewalk. So there was not a priority that was into this, I believe.
I would just say, I've been on the committee almost a year now, and so I got familiar with those 4 sidewalks. And and where I live in town, I see them all the time, Prospect Street and everything. And I will say this summer, I saw many, many instances of people on Pleasant Street walking in the middle of the street. I did not see that on Prospect Street. I did not see that on Cliff Road, but boy, did I, there were countless instances of seeing people walking by Joe's Barber Shop and that whole thing, in the middle of the street at night even.
Right, yeah. Lee?
Alan, I'll comment to Phil. I live around the corner from Joe's Barber Shop. We do not walk to the Stop and Shop precisely because we can't do it safely. If we could, we wouldn't be driving. Now, in terms of priority, the 4 that we selected with the help of Andrew Vorse, our town planner, were the 4 that had planning in place and good, I don't want to use the word blueprint, but good designs and plans for those entire stretches. One of the things that slowed before the breakup of administration for DPW, one of the things that slowed was the question of whether or not there should be a one-way street system that made a large roundabout of Williams, Sparks, Atlantic, and Pleasant, so as to cut some of the delay time at Surfside, Atlantic, and Pleasant and Prospect and Sparks.
Right. Phil, in further answer to your question here, I had a meeting with the property owners on Pleasant Street with Andrew Vorse, the planning director, and with Rob McNeil, at that time the head of the DPW. And the property owners are amenable to a sidewalk. The question is, there are some big maple trees along the edge of the road. And one possibility, according to the property owners, was to put a sidewalk inside the trees there to go down on their property and so on. There was never a resolution there, although there was a meeting of the minds, let's put it that way, between the planning director, between the property owners, the 2 key people, and the director of the DPW, that this was a doable project. And so maybe back to your original point, as far as priorities, that would be, I don't know, I've always thought of Prospect Street as being a priority because I've seen people come roaring off the bike path right into the traffic and, that sort of thing. But so I think the thing to do on that is I'll follow up on that. Yes, Bill?
Just a procedural question first. And that is, whenever we weigh in as a committee or whatever, and in this particular case, the letter for the priorities or the 4 sidewalks or whatever, does that correspondence, do we archive that so that it's reviewable as a, public document? Or, when we send out stuff, or is it just on somebody's computer? So that'd be the first question. The second one was, the town has started removing trees, those very trees that Alan was just talking about. And those are the ones that I sent some photos around. They were there for a couple of days, taking trees down. They were actually on the abutters property to do so. And then it all stopped because Rob left. So I'm not even sure that that's in the wheelhouse of picking up that project, but it definitely was started. And if you recall, that sidewalk, the bone of contention with Rob was tying it into the roundabout over by the pool. And he didn't want to do something that had to be ripped up because the overall plan changed when the roundabout went in. So those projects got lumped together, and it may be that they're going to have to pull them apart to get anything done.
Right. In answer to the,
Alan, as far as I know, and this goes back several years, the memo was attached to a minute, but I can reattach it to these minutes.
okay, yeah, I was just going to respond to your first question, Bill. Anytime we send anything to the select board, it always it usually gets attached to the minutes, our minutes, but I'm also assuming that anything that Erica receives becomes a public document. I'm not really sure what, if those are posted or anything like that, but good question. As far as the second part of your question, the trees coming down, after I think Lee mentioned something or no, you emailed Lee that one of the trees was removed or something. I went by there the next day and I didn't notice any of those trees. I believe there are 5 of those.
Believe me, they're gone. You got to get out of your vehicle and you look down into the valley, and there's at least 2 that they took down.
Really?
Yeah. You can't see it. You can't see it from the road. And if you look at,
wait a minute. What do you mean you can't see it? Because those trees are right on the road, right on.
well, I'm just telling you that there's several trees that are there that are marked with X's, red X's, and they took 2 of them down, which are in the little valley, which I'm assuming has to be brought up to grade for a sidewalk to go in. But if you risk your life going over there, you've got to park in like the Knights of Columbus and walk across there. But you will see what a possible path for a sidewalk meandering through those big trees. There's at least 1 or 2 good sized ones that have been taken down.
Really? Goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Alan, in response to Bill, the landowner may do whatever he or she chooses, and those trees are on private property. From time to time, National Grid does come through and trim so as to protect wires. Again, that's on private property.
Those were it was town truck, it was a town tree department that did it. There was no National Grid guys there, strictly town vehicles.
Really? And this is on the corner of Pleasant and William Street where it comes down. Huh? All right, well,
right across from where Phil Marx's farm used to be.
Yeah.
Next to, between there and Resendi's house.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Well, I'll check it out and I'll inquire further to see what, as I say, I must go up and down that street at least 2 or 3 times a week. And I guess maybe I'm focused on getting home or getting to town or whatever I'm doing. So,
Alan,
Yeah,
a couple of those trees I see have ribbons tied around them, which is which is a sure sign that that's been, identified to come down. So, and those were big trees, but the only other thing I would add is that of the 4 sidewalk projects, I suspect that this would be the most expensive. And I would hate for this to get put at the end of the line because it's less expensive than one of the others. I mean, it's more expensive than the others.
right. Okay, now I just remembered that all 4 of these spots were identified because they pose a danger to pedestrians. Cliff Road, Prospect Street for sure, Pleasant Street for sure. And God, I wish I can't remember what the 4th
It
one.
may have been Lover's Lane, Alan.
I don't, I thought we had 4 streets and then we added Lover's Lane, the bike path in there, but.
North Liberty Street? You mentioned North Liberty Street?
Maybe that was it. We mentioned North Liberty from
Darrymore up.
Darrymore up to.
Oh, right.
Yeah, okay, I think that was the.
Alan, I'm going to have to jump off because I've got a 5 o'clock select board meeting that I've got to jump onto.
Great, have fun.
Yeah. All
I'll be
right.
there. I think I'll be there with you, so.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Ken. Okay, is there anything else on that issue?
On those trees that are marked, it might be that they're diseased and they have to come down.
It could be. They didn't.
Ribbons around them.
They didn't look terribly healthy. So, okay, that's where are we on our agenda here? Oh, okay, number 6, the next item on our agenda, public access. I should have put this first. Our overall mission is to deal with public access. And I think the projects that we've accomplished over the years the majority of them have been focused on public access, as far as the streets, as far as taking the private roads and providing access. Cliff Road, for example, the Surfside takings, access to the beach at Surfside, other takings that we have encouraged and supported. The railroad trail bike path, and of course the recently developed Cross Island Trail system, all dealing with public access. So in our, I reread our mission statement, and it does stress public access to the ponds, harbors, tidelands, ocean, and so on. So one of the things that Phil's been working on is a map of some of the access points to the ocean. And I know I've seen the maps that Nathan Porter has sent out to Phil. And there are a number of them that are undetermined. Let's put it that way. Nathan isn't sure whether it's a public or a private way. They don't show up on the public or private road lists. And I think the only way to determine those is to spend some time going into the registry of the land court. No, not the land court.
Registry of Deeds.
Registry of Deeds, and to see if we can see what we can find out there. Now that is obviously, as Phil said at the beginning, that's much too big a project for one person to try and digest. So my thought is to ultimately develop a map of where the public access points are. There is no unified map that I'm aware of anyway, that shows those public access points. Now, as you are on the beach, you'll see the beach access signs. Those are not necessarily public access points. Many of them are. If they're on conservation properties and so on, the public is invited to use this and so on. But some of the other access points are on private property, and there is no public access on them. So I think that list, and I've tried to get a copy of that list, and was told it was unavailable because they didn't want the public. Well, anyway, so it would seem as though that would be a logical place to start. See where those beach access points are, and determine which ones are indeed on private property, and see what might be done about that in terms of taking and so on. Yes, Phil?
Alan, just a point of clarification. First of all, I believe that I sent to everybody on the committee those maps. I'm sorry if it overloaded your computer and probably
Sal, I'm on a Zoom call, but
Might
I'm
have,
called Priscilla and asked you.
given you a problem with
Okay,
so many attachments, but I believe I sent that to everyone. And I would want to talk to Nathan Porter about this, because so many of those points are access points for the fire department and the police department, which I don't think we're necessarily, that's not what we're supposed to be looking at. We're supposed to be looking at what are public access points.
Exactly.
So I think maybe I should have a conversation with Nathan and say, okay, do you have something that had, from your point of view, you consider the public access points, not necessarily the police department or fire department? Because if you look at the police department, fire department, they're just dots all over the place.
Right, exactly. Yes, Lee, did you have a question?
a comment. When we did way back when we did the public way monuments,
Yes.
Jeff Carlson was then beach manager, and he gave me the list of access points. And I was ready to recommend a monument at every one of them,
Yeah.
until I discovered that many of them are private. Sorry about the clock. And that includes our non-governmental organizations such as Conservation Foundation and Land Bank. Those are private entities who control the access point and have generously welcomed the public. But we decided we were not going to put a monument there because we didn't own that land.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so back to the original point, Jeff gave me a list. It's probably out of date, but I'm surprised that we can't get a hold of the current list. Phil, who's the beach manager now?
I don't know. The only person I've been dealing with is Nathan Porter. And Nathan is somebody, all he does is just, he takes information from all these different departments of the town and puts it on a map. And he has no idea whether they're correct or not.
Right. Ed?
You can take the beach map, that's public information that they actually have a map of. And quite frankly, if we had to, we could go through, there's not that many of them. We could figure out which of those are public and which ones are private. If we're just talking about going to the beach, I mean, there's other things on this agenda besides just the beach, obviously for public access, but, and it would be handy to the public to have a map similar to the Conservation Foundation kind of map, indicating that where there is either public access or invited public access over conservation, land bank, Mariah Mitchell, whatever, Audubon, whatever. But in other words, that for someone that's not in the know, that all these places are places that you could have access to the beach. I mean, I think ultimately that's part of our mission here, is to give people the access and the knowledge of where it is.
Right.
So I think a map would be very handy to have like that. Obviously, we'd have to eliminate anyone that's owned by private entities that are not organizations, conservation or otherwise organizations. So I don't know, that would be, I mean, to me, it's like having a map of this Cross Island Trail. I mean, it's the same kind of concept that, I mean, obviously, we gotta be careful what we wish for. Once everybody knows where they are, then you can forget all your little secret places to go to the beach, because they're not gonna be secrets anymore. But that's the nature of our committee, is to, to open up public access.
Right. Yeah, Bill?
Since we're talking about beaches, I thought the point that Rick sent an email today to Alan and myself about the bill that they're putting, this bill number 511 in front of the Senate with Julian Sear and Dylan Fernandez about redefining beach access to include the word recreation. And that has to do with the high water, low water, and fishing, fouling, and whatever. And I think, since we've acknowledged that beach access is something that this committee weighs in on, I think that it's within the realm of our jurisdiction to weigh in and at least advise the selectmen that that we support this move to open up access for the public to several of the beaches which currently are restricted.
Right.
Bill, I think this is an important point. May I ask, is it House Bill 511?
It's Senate Bill 511.
Senate Bill, thank you.
Okay, I've been following the this plan. I think it's a great idea by simply inserting the word recreation. The justification behind it, according to either, I think it was Julian who mentioned, was that the fishing, fouling, and navigating were the recreation back in the 1600s, when the Chapter 91 law was, well, the Chapter 91 law came after that, but the early regulations built on that. The colonial ordinances specified for fishing, fouling, and navigation. And the Julian Sear maintains that those were the recreational opportunities that were available back in the 1600s. And it makes perfect sense to me. And by the way, I've noticed on some of the Chapter 91 signs, all the properties that have Chapter 91 access are supposed to have a sign on them saying, Chapter 91 public access for fishing, fouling, navigation, and they say recreation. There's one that reappeared behind the White Elephant, because you used to be able to walk down that whole stretch down to the Coast Guard base. Had to walk
Steamboat Wharf.
Yeah, right. It was you had to be on the bulkhead. You couldn't walk on people's properties, I guess, but they had to provide public access, and that's true of any public property owner who owns property on a filled tideland, on the ocean, on a pond, and so on, that they are required to provide public access through Chapter 91. And that's one of the things that we've discussed many times in this committee, in terms of the Chapter 91 license. So I think it's a marvelous idea, and I hope that they will push through with that. But Bill, were you, well, I'll get back to you in just a moment about whether you wanted to make that a motion or not. So Lee, and then Rick.
Alan, can
Very simply, I'm hearing enthusiasm for a committee endorsement. Bill, I think, is ready or has already made a motion. It needs a second and then discussion.
Oh, I didn't hear it as a motion, but I'll get back to, let me get Rick's question first and then I'll get back to Bill. Rick?
Well, it's not a question. I think this is a process that's going to take a long time at the state level, and we're going to find a lot of private property owners
Exactly.
making sure their legislators know how important they are.
Mhm.
So the timing isn't critical today or next time. I think it's important when a committee like ours is undertaking such a recommendation, which I support. That's why I sent a copy of the bill to Alan and Bill. And I think we should have this specifically on an agenda. We should send that bill with the agenda to all the members, maybe with a copy of a couple of the press related to it, and then undertake to pass a motion that we draft appropriately to emphasize how important this is and pass it on to the selectmen. I think our interest here is both to support Dylan and Julian, but also to make sure our select board gets on board and supports this as well. And I think our initiative should be to assist them in coming to that recommendation. So that would be my thought about the process, Alan.
Okay, good. And I would agree. Bill?
I just forwarded that bill, the members. I don't know if Rob was on the list, but I replied to the, hey, Rob, okay. That's a copy of the Senate bill, so you can peruse the thing.
Right.
I think we should draft a proposed motion before the next meeting, Alan, that you and Bill can recommend to the committee, because I think the words we use are going to be important in influencing the select board. You don't want to just say, sign up, guys. I think they need to hear some of the reasons why this is an excellent idea, why it's different from the prior efforts that failed, and why it's important that they get on board.
Great. I believe we have a consensus there to do that. Bill, does that
That's fine.
work? Good. All right. I'll put that on the next, our agenda for October 19th, our next meeting. And yeah, that should be a great discussion. And I fully agree. I think that any recommendation we make to the select board should have a rationale behind it. We should explain why it is we feel that this is important and, you know, that sort of thing. So, okay, anything else?
Alan,
Yes.
I would just say it was a couple of months ago that there was a Zoom conference on this Chapter 91 subject, and we had some people from the state, you know,
Yes.
from Massachusetts, and I came away from that feeling that there were a lot of basic questions that were asked that the people on Beacon Hill did not have the answers to.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a Civic League program, and I think everybody on the committee either watched it or was involved with. I was one of the speakers explaining Chapter 91 on that program. So, yeah, I think that, all right, I'll put that on the agenda for our next meeting on the 19th, and we can discuss that further. In the meantime, give it some thought, give it some, if you have any specific suggestions as to what kind of wording should be in there, you know, don't hesitate to forward them to me. Yes, Rick? Rick?
Yeah, I'm not sure this should come up under number 6 or 7, Alan, but I wanted to follow up a little bit of the same subject, but in a different way. I became interested through watching a conservation committee meeting on the way, or private or public, as it may or may not be, between 71 and 73 Baxter Road.
Mhm.
And it reminded me that town meeting voted to authorize the select board to undertake takings of a number of the ways between Baxter Road and the town property that is on the other side of the bluff walk. And there are a number of other instances, I suspect, like that. The Holbert Avenue access points were similar. I haven't seen an update, but I'm sure there must be a list maintained by the town. And I think Ken could be very helpful in supplying that. It's public information. How many such authorizations are out there and just how many of them have been completed or are underway or not. I'm aware, for example, I'm pretty sure I'm right now, and you could comment on this, that Ann's Way, for example, involved a number of negotiations with Soros, and that may still be going on. I'm not sure that the other ways included in those articles have all been taken or not. So I think it would be helpful for our committee to weigh in on those. Those ways were recommended for a taking by the subcommittee of this committee and passed on formally by the Roads and Right of Way to the select board. And that was helpful in getting those articles onto the town meeting warrant at that time. But I think there may be others as well. I don't know. So a listing like that would be, I think, in our interest, so we know where we stand.
Good. Okay, I'll follow up on that. There was some confusion about the one at 70, between 73 and 75. I was under the impression that that one hadn't been taken, but then in the records from the town clerk, it said that, you know, they did take that one. It is grown in. There's a whole field of privet and everything else. The bluff walk does end at number, well, at least where the sign is for the end of it is at number 67.
67.
Yeah, 67, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah, and there's a sign there with at both ends of it, one pointing to the, you know, the way out, and the other, there's one on Baxter Road pointing to the way in. All right, well, I'll put that, I'll follow up with Andrew on that and see if in fact those are taken. I'm not sure what the advantage would be of opening up that one more, but anyway, we'll continue with that.
Which one?
Alan, I was hoping we'd go to Ken. He's the new guy managing all these processes.
Right, exactly.
Alan, can I just ask a question about one of those? Frederick Way, where was that, Rick? That one's been extinguished as part of some of the deals with them to the town access to the other ones, but I don't remember where exactly that was. That was a long time ago. But I know it was all grown in and nobody even knew it was there. As far as, was that up further?
Yeah, I think
Rick, that was after Ann's Way, I think.
Nat, Frederick Way may well be between 55 and 57, and I think there was
That
an
far down?
agreement with
Okay,
the
I thought it
planning
was further up.
director not to proceed on that taking, even though it was listed in the
Right.
warrant articles approved at town meeting. I'm not aware that any other of those ways listed had that same kind of attribution not to proceed.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
Frederick Way, I
That's
think,
right.
I'm guessing it's that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one. I just don't remember.
If you want to know
I
where
can't-
that is,
Yeah, I can't picture it in my mind where that was quite some time ago, but I know that was when Alan mentioned one that wasn't ever, you know, used, it was just grown in. I was thinking of that one because that's what it was.
Right.
But I agree with Alan. We haven't, the work that's been done has been all on the ones that are not eroding, you know, usable. So I think that's a good thing. Get in touch with Andrew, Allen, and see where we are and what's the latest. I wouldn't be able to tell you that, so
And we do have some of those granite public way
they're out there.
monuments. We have both the upright ones that say public
Flush.
way, and also we have a couple that say public footpath. And we have some of the flush ones as well that have been placed mostly along Hobart Avenue. So, Ed?
Good.
Alan, through you as chair to the board, I have another meeting at 5:30 that I need to get to, that I have to, drive to. So I'm going to have to depart early here.
Okay, well, I think we're at the end of our agenda, and yes, Lee?
Alan, under new old business, do we have any news about a transportation planner?
No, I haven't heard a thing.
No,
Okay,
not anything worth reporting yet now, Lee.
thank you.
Okay, is there anything else to come before the committee this afternoon? Seeing none, I declare we are at the end of our agenda.
I'll stop down and take a look at it tomorrow. Right now, I'm in a roads and right-of-way committee meeting via Zoom.
I think
That's
we're,
fine. You didn't have any way.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, thank
Chair.
you. All in favor? Right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you all. We'll see you next month.
Alan, I'm off island tomorrow, but I'll start working on this on Thursday.
Okay, great. Snooki, would
Thank
you
you.
adjourn the meeting while you were?
Yeah, I had a phone call.
No, that's all right.
Problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Cheery bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank